Shalom, it's your brother Ywanathan. All right, first and foremost, I want to give all praises to the Most High, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakah HaKodash. I want to give double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. I want to say shalom to all the brothers and, of course, the few sisters who are pursuing this truth in sincerity. All right, may the blessing of election be upon your house. Today we're going to talk about how it's long been understood by the nations, the adversaries of Israel. All right, the very same nations in Psalms, the 83rd chapter, who were confederate against us. It's long been understood by them that in order for us to be kept in a downtrodden state, that we have to be put in a situation to where we're perpetually sinning. That is how we're made vulnerable. No other way. When we're separated from our power, we're open for attacks, whether they be spiritual or carnal. Now, I'm going to go through the scriptures and get some examples on the defense that we would have when we were in proximity to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai and the lack of protection that we have when we're separated. I want to go to Numbers, the 22nd chapter. And when you read through verses 1 through 6, you got King Balak sending his messengers to Balaam to try to throw curses up on us. But at that time, the Lord was dealing with us. We're getting ready to enter into the promised land. We're pretty much at the end of our 40-year journey through the wilderness. All right, now, so when you look at Numbers 23 and 24, that plan didn't work, okay? Balaam was only able to utter blessings upon the children of Israel. But Balaam then counseled King Balak on a far more insidious strategy. He understood that you have to get these people to be at fault with their power before you can, put up any curses on them. All right, but let's get the scriptures here on Balaam only being able to throw up blessings first. All right, this is Numbers 23 and 7. It says, "And he took up his parable and said, Balak, the king of Moab, hath brought me from Aram out of the mountains of the east, saying, Come curse me, Jacob, and come defy Israel. How shall I curse whom God hath not cursed? Or how shall I defy whom the Lord hath not defied? For from the top of the rocks I see him, and from the hills I behold him. Lo, the people shall dwell alone, and shall not be reckoned among the nations. Who can count the dust of Jacob, and number the fourth part of Israel? Let me die the death of the righteous, and let my last end be like his. And Balak said unto Balaam, What hast thou done unto me? I took thee to curse mine enemies, and behold, thou hast blessed them altogether. And he answered and said, Must I not take heed to speak that which the Lord hath put in my mouth? The Lord put it on, because at the end of the day, the Lord directs the steps of all people. Free will is an illusion. You go to Proverbs 20 and 24, scriptures say what? Man's goings are of the Lord. How can a man then understand his own way? So really, I bring that up to articulate to you that the only person there is to fear is the Lord. Because if anything happens, the Lord had to sanction it first. So you want to be in good standing with him, and you'll be good standing in all. All right. So as previously stated, the Lord in Numbers 23 and 24 overruled us being cursed by Balaam. But we jump down to Numbers 25. Our people, they always fall for it. Let's go to Numbers 25. We'll start at the top. All right, this is Numbers 25 and 1. It says, And Israel abode in Shittim, and the people began to commit whoredom with the daughters of Moab. And this is also part of the reason why the Lord didn't want us taking daughters of the other nations unto ourselves, because it was always a gateway to worshiping their gods. Okay, the way King David did it was the right way. David didn't bend the knee to any of his wives' gods, any of his concubines' gods, because only woman that you could really take as a wife, okay, as an Israelite man, is another Israelite woman. You can't take a heathen woman as a wife. she's not on the same status. All right. Verse 2, it says, and they called the people unto the sacrifices of their gods. And the people did eat and bowed down to their gods. And this is where we become separated from our power. And this is where we become vulnerable. You understand? Numbers 25:3. And Israel joined himself to Baal Peor, and the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel. Now, I looked up on Google here, what is Baal Peor worship? And it says Baal Peor was an ancient local deity worshipped by the Moabites on Mount Peor. The cult is infamously documented in the Hebrew Bible for its scandalous rituals, which involve sexual seduction of Israelite men by Moabite women, and shockingly degrading practices including worshipers defecating directly in front of the idol. That's nasty. Okay, but you jump down here, it says rituals of Baal Peor. And the term Peor means to open. And I remember Baal Peor meaning God of the opening, right? It says, or hiatus, which has historically been interpreted by rabbis and scholars to reflect the nature of the deity's filthy and bizarre rites. Okay, it says the worship involves sacred prostitution and licentious dances, tying the deity to fertility and material prosperity. Okay, excrement worship. According to the Babylonian Talmud, and as an Israelite man, as an Israelite in general, we have nothing to do with that Talmud. Okay, we are to follow the Torah. Okay, and historical kabod, and we lean on our faith in Yahweh Shai, most importantly. An historical kabod.org analysis, a unique and bizarre characteristic of the specific cult was that followers would void themselves in front of the idol to pay homage, subverting traditional notions of divine reverence. That's right up Esau's alley. That's all I'll read on that. Let's go back and finish reading here in Numbers 25. Number 25:3. It says, and Israel joined himself unto Baal Peor, and the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel. Just nasty. All right, verse 4. And the Lord said unto Moses, take all the heads of the people and hang them up before the Lord against the sun, that the fierce anger of the Lord may be turned away from Israel. In verse 25 and 5, Numbers 25:5, it says what? And Moses said unto the judges of Israel, slay ye every one of his men that were joined unto Baal Peor. Now you go to Revelation 2:14, check this out. Revelation 2:14, it says, but I have a few things against thee, because there are them that hold the doctrine of Balaam, mentioning the same man in Numbers 23:24, who taught Balak to cast a stumbling block before the children of Israel, to eat things sacrificed unto idols, and to commit fornication. So it's always been a deeper counsel amongst the nations to, when you can't curse us on the outside, to corrupt us from the inside. And that's going to be through sexual immorality and idolatry. This strategy has been repeated throughout the volume of our history. And it culminates in what we see today. All right? Even when you go back to the Herodian infiltration of Israel's own government, corrupted from the inside. Okay? And of course, the master of this tactic would be the Edomites, and specifically the chief tribe of the Edomites, which would be the Amalekites. Okay? And you can read about the Amalekites in Genesis 36:12. Let's go there real quick. It's Genesis 36:12. It says, and Timnah was a concubine to Eliphaz, Esau's son, and she bare to Eliphaz Amalek. Okay, and Amalek became the chief tribe of Edom's descendants. And they're our top adversary. I'll put it that way. Then let's go to Exodus 17:8 really quick. Let me see here. Exodus the 17th chapter and the 8th verse. It reads, Then came Amalek and fought with Israel in Rephidim. And Moses said unto Joshua, Choose us out men, and go out and fight with Amalek. Tomorrow I will stand on the top of the hill with the rod of God in mine hand. So Joshua did as Moses said unto him, and fought with Amalek. And Moses, Aaron, and Hur went up to the top of the hill. And it came to pass, when Moses held up his hand, that Israel prevailed. And when he let down his hand, Amalek prevailed. But Moses' hands were heavy. So the Lord commanded him to hold up that staff. And as long as that staff was being held up, we would we win. Right? We would prevail. All right. So we're fighting against Amalek. Keep in mind, you still had the chariot hovering over us, there with us the whole time, which Yahweh was in that chariot. But him holding up that staff, it represented our dependence on divine intervention rather than human strength. And it showed that the ultimate victory was spiritual. Okay, so again, taking us down is a spiritual task. And our people majority of our people, 2/3 to be exact, have been spiritually severed from the thought process, from the conduct of Yahweh Shem Yahweh. They lean onto their own way, or they lean onto the thought processes and the way that the nations have given them, which has always been our downfall. And it's how we ended up in captivity on the other side of the world in the first place. Okay, let's go back to, let's finish this up and read a little bit more here in Exodus 17 and 11. It says, And it came to pass when Moses held up his hand that Israel prevailed. And when he let down his hand, Amalek prevailed. But Moses' hands were heavy, and they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat thereon. And Aaron and Hur stayed up his hands, one on the one side and the other on the other side. And his hands were steady until the going down of the sun. And Joshua discomfited Amalek and his people with the edge of the sword. So we prevailed. But it's always going to be through spiritual means, ultimately. The same way in our time today, the way we're going to be able to withstand the wiles of the devil is by spiritual means. We have to lean on Yahweh Shem Yahweh. We have to have faith in him, which is going to grant us access to that covering. You understand? All right, I'm going to read down all the way through verse 16. And Joshua, this is verse 13 again. And Joshua discomfited Amalek and his people with the edge of the sword. And the Lord said unto Moses, Write this for a memorial in a book, and rehearse it in the ears of Joshua, for I will utterly put out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven. And Moses built an altar and called the name of it Yahweh Nisi. Yahweh is my banner. Or the proper way to say it would be Yahweh Messiah. Yahweh Messiah, right? H3071. And it means Yahweh is my banner. Okay? Remember that song, Back in the World, man? They used to sing that song, Jehovah Nisi, For he said, because the Lord have sworn that the Lord will have war with Amalek from generation to generation, and that has held true. All right? The owner of all the corporations that push all the filth on the world today would be the Amalekites, claiming to be the Judites, and they're not. Then we go to Deuteronomy 25 and 17. I'm going to read it in the NLT. It says, Never forget what the Amalekites did to you as you came from Egypt. They attacked you and were exhausted and weary. When you were exhausted and weary, and they struck down those who were straggling behind. They had no fear of God. So Amalekites, they attack what? The weak, the sick, the elderly, the children at the rear of our march. This wasn't conventional warfare. They always dealt in an underhanded way. And even today, starting in the 60s, they gave the women government aid, but they only got access to that government aid if the man wasn't in the home. And that, again, opened up the women and the children to be attacked. They constantly come up with new ways to bind the strong man of the nation. So it's very predatory and savagery. So they attack the defenseless. There's no honor in how they deal. Now, there's been times in history where we succeeded in subduing the Amalekites, the Moabites, all the nations. David was successful where Saul failed. This is in Abaratazah, we be of that house of David. This is 2 Samuel 8:2. It says, and he smote Moab and measured them with a line, casting them down to the ground, even with 2 lines measured he to put to death, and with 1 full line to keep alive. And so the Moabites became David's servants and brought gifts. So everybody, it was forced to pay taxes. When you're paying taxes to a nation or to an entity, you're a subject unto them. All right, 2 Samuel 8:13. It says, and David gat him a name when he returned from smiting the Syrians in the valley of Salt, being 18,000 men, and he put in garrisons Edom, throughout all Edom, put he garrisons, and all they of Edom became David's servants. Okay, so people understand us being on one accord with our power means servitude for them. When you go to Psalms 2 in the NLT, let me go there really quick. You go to Psalms 2 in the NLT, check this out, Psalms 2:1. It says, why are the nations so angry? Why do they waste their time with futile plans? The kings of the earth prepare for battle. The rulers plot together against the Lord and against his anointed one, saying, let us break their chains, they cry, and free ourselves from slavery to God. And part of them freeing themselves from slavery to Yahweh Shem Yahushua is getting his people off track with the standard he commissioned them to walk in. And one of the primary tactics has always been to infiltrate the minds or the standard of the people of Israel, to get us to be in a mindset, in a culture that is contrary to the ways of Yahweh Shem Yahushua. And today that would serve as black culture. Today that would serve as the Western mindset. Okay, so in order to get closer in proximity to our power, you have to put off the mindset of this world, the moral compass of this world. If somebody still has a Western mindset, if they still, have an affinity for black culture, it's it's a 0% chance that they fear Yahweh Shem Yahushua the way that they ought to. Okay, so with that being said, Abaratazah, the lesson was edifying. I want to give all praises once more to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakah HaKodash. I want to give double honor to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. I want to say shalom to all the brothers and, of course, the few sisters who are pursuing this truth and sincerity. May the blessing of election be upon your house. Shalom.